Welcome back, everyone, to English Podcast 2.0. Today we are doing a deep dive into how to sound more polished and confident when you speak English. It's really interesting, actually. It's amazing how even small tweaks can have like a huge impact on how people see you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like anything else. A little polish can go a long way,
For sure, for sure. So where do we even begin with all this?
Hmm. Well, let's think about it this way. You wouldn't, you wouldn't show up to a job interview wearing pajamas. You want to make a good first impression.
Right.
And the same goes for how you speak. Those first few words, they really set the tone, Like imagine walking into a super formal meeting and just greeting everyone with, "Hey, what's up?"
Oh, yeah. Not exactly professional.
Not at all. Instead, something like, "Good morning, everyone." Or even just a hello, and then address people you know by their titles and last names. It shows you understand the situation.
Makes sense. So it's all about like setting the right tone from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like dressing for the occasion,
Mm-hmm.
but with your words.
Exactly. And once you've set the tone, then you can focus on actually, delivering your message. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is trying to sound smart by using all this complex language.
Oh, yeah. Definitely been there.
Yeah.
Thinking that more syllables equals more intelligence.
But it's actually the opposite. Clear and concise language, that's what makes you sound more confident. Think about great speakers and leaders, right? They don't waste words.
Sure. They get straight to the point.
Right. Straight to the point. So how do we avoid that trap of overcomplicating things? Well, it's all about simplifying. Like, for example, instead of saying, "in the event that it rains," you could just say, "if it rains," right? Or instead of saying, "for the purpose of improving customer service," just say, "to improve customer service," you see?
Yeah. It's like decluttering your sentences.
Exactly. You just remove the unnecessary words and boom, the important ones really stand out.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I have a confession. I am like a bit of a filler word addict. All those likes.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Oh, we all have them. But the problem with those filler words is they make us sound, hesitant.
Yeah. Like we're not sure what we're talking about.
Right. And the thing is, sometimes silence can actually be, more powerful than a filler word.
Really? So like just pause instead of saying,
Yeah. A well-placed pause can make you sound so much more thoughtful and deliberate. It gives your audience a moment to, process what you just said.
Okay, that's a good tip.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to try to be more mindful of those pauses. Now, what about those little phrases we use, almost without thinking?
Like,
Basically, technically,
Yeah.
actually.
yeah.
I never even realized how often I use them until I started paying attention.
Yeah. Those are called side particles. And while they might seem harmless, they can actually clutter up your speech and make you sound, well, less authoritative.
Like those extra knickknacks you have around the house, they don't really add anything. They just collect dust.
Exactly. They don't really add any substance. And sometimes they can even distract from the, overall message. Just like decluttering your house can make it feel more spacious, right?
Right.
Same with your speech. Removing those extra phrases, it just makes it cleaner, more impactful.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm seeing a theme here. Less is more.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about word choice. I've always felt like the words we choose have a huge impact on how we come across.
Oh, absolutely. You're spot on. Choosing strong and assertive words can really project confidence. People will take you more seriously.
So it's not just about what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly. For example, instead of saying, "I think this is a good idea," you could say, "I believe this is a great idea."
Ooh, I like that.
Or instead of, "I was given an opportunity."
I seized the opportunity. I love that. See those subtle shifts in wording? They make such a difference.
Mhm.
The second example just sounds so much more like confident and proactive.
Exactly. It's about, owning your ideas and expressing yourself with conviction. And it's not about being aggressive or anything like that. It's just about being clear and direct.
Got it. Okay, this next one is something I personally struggle with. Those little disclaimers we often use without even realizing it. Things like, this might sound silly, or I'm not sure if this is right, but
Yes, the self-sabotaging disclaimers. They're so common, but they can really, really undermine your message.
yeah, they totally do.
Yeah.
But why is that? Why do they have that effect?
Well, think about it, right? When you start a sentence with a disclaimer, you're basically pre-apologizing for your idea. You're saying, don't take me too seriously.
Hmm. I'm not even sure this is worth listening to.
Exactly. It's like you're serving a delicious meal, but then you tell everyone, "Sorry, it's probably cold."
Oh, the worst. Yeah, I get it. It makes the listener question your confidence.
Exactly. So what's the alternative? How can we introduce our ideas without, shooting ourselves in the foot? Well, it's actually quite simple. Just state your idea directly instead of, this might be a dumb question, but
Yeah.
just ask the question.
Okay.
Yeah. And instead of, I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but just say, I suggest.
I suggest. I love it.
It's all about owning your thoughts and expressing them with, confidence and conviction.
Confidence. I like it.
Believe in what you have to say, and your listeners are much more likely to believe in it too.
Okay, so we've talked about making a good first impression, being clear and concise with our language, and ditching those filler words and disclaimers. What else can we do to really take our communication to the next level?
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about feedback. Giving and receiving feedback is such a crucial part of, well, life, really, both personal and professional.
Oh, for sure. And it's a skill, right? It takes practice, both on the giving and receiving end.
Absolutely. And the way you deliver feedback, well, it can make a huge difference in how it's received.
I can definitely relate to that. I've been on the receiving end of some pretty harsh criticism, and oh, man, it can be so demoralizing.
Yeah, I hear ya. The key is to really focus on being helpful and encouraging rather than critical and judgmental, right? Remember, feedback should empower growth. It shouldn't discourage it.
So how can we make sure that our feedback is actually constructive? Like, what are some practical tips?
Well, first of all, be specific. Instead of saying something like, your presentation wasn't good, try saying something like, I think the data visualization could be improved by using a different type of chart. See the difference.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's so much more helpful. You're actually pinpointing the area that needs improvement and offering a concrete suggestion.
Exactly. And always try to frame your feedback in a positive light. Like you could start by saying, hey, I really appreciated your enthusiasm during the presentation. One thing that could make it even stronger is to really focus on highlighting those key takeaways.
Okay, so it's kind of like that sandwich approach,
Hmm.
right? A bit of positive reinforcement on either side of the constructive criticism.
Exactly. It just makes the feedback a little easier to digest. It keeps the focus on improvement rather than dwelling on the mistakes.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, switching gears again. Let's talk about asking questions. It seems like such a simple thing, but I've definitely fumbled my way through questions before. And it can be so embarrassing.
Oh, tell me about it. But asking clear and well-structured questions, it's honestly crucial for effective communication. It shows that you're engaged, that you're listening, and you're genuinely interested in learning more.
So how can we make sure we're asking the right questions in the right way?
Well, first of all, avoid those super vague questions. Like, can you explain that? Or, I don't get it.
Oh, yeah. Those don't exactly inspire confidence, do they?
Not really. Instead, try something more specific, like, could you elaborate on the connection between X and Y? Or, I'm a bit confused about this particular point. Could you clarify it for me?
Okay, so being specific is key. Got it?
Mm.
Those examples definitely sound way more professional, and it shows that you've actually been paying attention.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions.
Hmm.
That shows you're actively processing the information and you're seeking a deeper understanding.
So it's not just about asking any old question. It's about asking the right questions in a way that shows you're engaged and genuinely curious.
Yes, exactly. Now, let's move on to wrapping up a conversation. It might seem simple, but there's an art to ending conversations gracefully and professional.
Oh, I've definitely had those awkward moments where I just kind of blurt out a bye and then scramble to hang up the phone. Not my finest moments.
We've all been there. But ending a conversation abruptly, well, it can make you seem dismissive or even rude, especially in a professional setting.
Okay, so what are some better ways to say goodbye?
Well, instead of just a simple bye, try something like, it was great speaking with you. Thank you for your time. Or, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this with you. I'll be sure to follow up on those next steps. What do you think?
Those definitely sound a lot more professional and considerate.
And if there are any action items from the conversation, be sure to reiterate them clearly. For example, you could say, just to confirm, I'll send you that report by Friday, and then we can schedule a call next week to discuss it further.
Yeah, I like that. It leaves no room for miscommunication. Everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Now, what if you want to leave the door open for future communication?
Ooh, that's a good point. Sometimes you want to signal that you're open to continuing the conversation.
Right. In those cases, try something like, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions. Or, I'm always happy to chat, so feel free to contact me anytime.
Okay, I like those. Those phrases make it clear that you value the connection and that you're open to further dialogue.
Precisely. So you see, even something as simple as ending a conversation, well, it can have a big impact on how you're perceived. Taking the time to do it gracefully, it just reinforces your professionalism. It leaves a positive, lasting impression.
I'm realizing that there are so many nuances to communication that I, honestly, never even considered before.
It's a fascinating subject, isn't it? And honestly, we've only just scratched the surface. There's always more to learn and explore when it comes to the art of effective communication.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today in this deep dive,
Yeah.
about polished communication, from those first impressions to giving feedback and even ending conversations gracefully. It's kind of amazing how many little things we can do to sound more confident and professional.
Right. And the best part is they're all skills that you can develop with practice.
So true, so true. Let's do a quick recap, for our listeners.
Mm.
Where should they focus their energy if they want to really, lever up their communication?
Okay, well, first and foremost, be super mindful of the power of those first impressions. Those initial greetings, those introductions, they set the tone for the entire interaction. So make sure you're starting off strong.
Right. No more, hey, what's up, in those formal settings.
Exactly. And remember, clarity is key. Use that concise language. Avoid the filler words. Ditch those unnecessary disclaimers. It's all about getting your message across in a way that is impactful and, well, easy to understand.
Less is more. Okay, so when it comes to word choice, what's like the most important thing to keep in mind?
Choose words that project confidence and conviction. Instead of those weak and uncertain phrases, use strong, assertive alternatives. Like instead of saying, I think this is a good idea, go for, I believe this is a great idea. It's subtle, but powerful.
It's like upgrading from a bicycle to a sports car.
Precisely. And when giving feedback, remember to be helpful and encouraging rather than critical and judgmental. Frame your suggestions positively and give specific examples.
That feedback sandwich, so helpful.
Absolutely. And let's not forget those well-structured questions. Asking them shows you're engaged, listening, and really interested in learning more.
Avoid those vague questions that make you sound unsure of yourself.
Right. Be specific. Ask follow-up questions. It shows real curiosity and a deep understanding.
Okay, and finally, let's not forget about those graceful exits, right? Ending conversations well. It shows respect for the other person's time and leaves a good impression.
Exactly. Ditch those abrupt goodbyes and use phrases that show gratitude and openness to talking more later.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of practical strategies, but where does it all begin, really? What's the foundation of good communication?
That's a great question. It all starts with self-awareness. Pay attention to your own speech. What are your patterns? Where can you improve? And then, consciously work on making those changes.
Like anything, it takes practice.
Exactly. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. You'll start to see how people respond to you differently. You'll feel more confident, too.
Now, one more thing I want to touch on, and that's vocabulary.
Ah, yes. A rich vocabulary is so valuable. It helps you express yourself with more precision and creativity.
But how do you actually go about expanding your vocabulary? It can seem kind of daunting.
The key is to make it a habit. Read a lot, explore different types of writing, pay attention to how skilled speakers use language. When you come across a word you don't know, look it up. Try using it in your own conversations.
Like adding new tools to your toolbox.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. The more you use those new words and phrases, the more comfortable you'll become.
So there you have it, folks. Our toolkit for sounding polished and confident when you speak English.
Remember, it's a journey. Keep practicing, keep refining your skills, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself and your ability to communicate well.
So well said. And now, for our final thought. We talked about all these external techniques, but what about the internal stuff?
Yeah.
The things that affect how we communicate.
Oh, that's important. Confidence comes from within. When you believe in yourself and what you're saying, it really shows.
So before you even start talking, take a moment to, center yourself. Focus on your message and project that confidence.
Yes. Combine these techniques with that inner confidence, and, well, you'll be unstoppable in any conversation.
I love that. And on that note, it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into polished communication.
It's been my pleasure. I hope everyone feels inspired to take their communication to the next level and find even more success in their lives.
And remember, the world is listening. Make your words count.